Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
From time to time during the procedure, the physician would tap his forceps on the edge of a little petri dish, and into the muck would drop a foot or a hand or a piece of rib cage. That is a description of a dilation and extraction abortion by R.D. Cohen, who was witness to these events. There are many of them that happened in Tennessee in 2015, not last year, but 2015, 9,100 boys and girls of women who reside in the state were destroyed in any of about 7 clinics in the state where, as they say, abortion is performed, a constitutionally protected, police department protected, judge protected, lawyer protected, and governor protected act. 9,113 boys and girls, many of them black, many of them minorities, destroyed by the vacuum cleaning operation that sucks out their limbs, their lungs, their rib cages, and their crushed heads in their destruction, which is protected by, as we like to say, protected by the Constitution and shielded by law enforcement, sheriffs, and police departments across the state, none of whom have the moral courage to say, this is done. We are not allowing it anymore. We're shutting this place down. This is a murder mill, an abortion mill, and human beings made in God's image, protected by his law, and in fact, protected by the constitutional right to life. This place is being shut down. We are shutting it down, come what may. I'm not going to let it go on another day. I'm standing here, and let me be personally liable. Let me be responsible. Let my department get in trouble. Let the lawyer bill for the county, for the city, go through the roof. But I'm in my office as a peacemaker, as a defender of constitutional rights, as a defender of private property, as a defender of life. And I'm not going to take it anymore. No, this place is shut down. I've padlocked the door, and I've engaged a carpenter to board up the windows and the doors of this clinic in this county and this city, and it's not happening anymore. It's over. It's done. It's finished. It's going to stop now. It's going to stop now. Now, that position is the local economy position on government. It is the local economy and constitutional position on the use of power, the use of the sword for a right and good end. And in Knoxville, in Nashville, and in Memphis, and in the Tri-Cities, where these clinics do their grisly deeds, there are reasons, local economy reasons in each place to say it stops here. We're taking charge. We are going to govern ourselves. We are going to make the constitutional right to life breathe through our oaths, and those oaths which were to the Tennessee Constitution, including its right to life provision, are going to live here. And they're going to live right here under my medallion, under my sheriff's badge. There is my heart. And in that heart is my oath to God to uphold the Tennessee Constitution and the U.S. Constitution, which guarantee a right to life. You cannot be deceased of your life absent a finding of a court and jury. No capital punishment, no slavery is allowed in this country apart from a right finding by a judge and jury. Unborn children have not had due process. They are destroyed in great numbers across the state of Tennessee. And the state of Tennessee, which will be having a Decision Tennessee event with Franklin Graham in the next few days, and also on Thursday, a prayer event in Chattanooga and other cities across the country, will be asking God to bless the country. Now, I'm wondering what is going to be asked at the prayer event. We're going to hear more about that in the show today, the David Tulis program by Roger Helle from Pray Chattanooga. We're going to ask about what's up here in town on Thursday. It's an event that takes place at Chattanooga Christian School at 7 o'clock. At 6 p.m. Thursday, about 90 minutes. And there'll be groups of people dividing to pray about different parts of the city, different parts of human life. praying over the effects of Adam's fall in the garden. And there is much earnest devotion there. Many devout Christians praying for individuals, praying for larger schemes, larger problems that are, you might say, institutional and structural, because that's what happens when there's blessing and when there's cursing. The curse or the blessing, it takes an institutional form. It's not just a personal thing anymore. It becomes a form of government. It becomes a custom writ large, enforced and maintained and upheld by the authorities. And that's what we have in Tennessee, in which there are at least 6 things that the Lord hates, even 7, even 8. And in a recent piece at Nooganomics.com, I asked, is there a 9th one? Is there a 9th thing the Lord hates? Now, in Chattanooga, in Hamilton County, we have no abortion clinic operating, and that's because Christian people 20 years ago, with people such as Dennis Bizzacco and Charlie Wysong, Doug Doherty, and many others, protested the operation of Chattanooga Women's Clinic, which operated about 19 years and destroyed about 30,000 boys and girls on Vance Road. That's just off of Lee Highway in Brainerd. The figures from the Vital Statistics Office of the Health Department has the slayings of babies just as with other data, right? It is not viewed as anything different from diseases among children and census data. It's all collected, health data of all types. And the killing of babies is just one bit of health data. Just look under ITOP, intentional termination of pregnancy. It's not infant death, right? It's a separate category from that. In Tennessee, there were 1,099 babies destroyed to married women, and 7,810 babies destroyed among unmarried women. And then there were about another 100 or so, 200 or so that were of unknown category. In Hamilton County, 151 women were residing in 2015 who destroyed their boys and girls. That is to say, 151 moms were no longer moms. They were women again without childbearing, without a prospect. They were not expecting anymore. They had, with the help of the doctor, aid in becoming a non-expectant mother. In Hamilton County, 30 of these babies were destroyed among married women, and 118 boys and girls destroyed among unmarried women. Blacks were double the rate of whites as per capita. In the white rate of destruction of children is 1.7 in 1,000, and among blacks it was 2.2 per 1,000. Now, rates per 1,000 births, another figure. The ratio was 31.9 per 1,000 among whites, and among blacks it was 48 babies slain. 48 babies slain. My notes here are not quite clear. Suddenly, I'm looking at my handwriting. Ratios per 1,000 births among whites is 31.9, or 100 babies slain among versus 3,136 born alive among blacks. 48 babies slain versus 1,100 births among blacks and non-whites in 2015. So it's divided among whites and non-whites by state government. So there's a disproportionate number of children born to blacks. Blacks in Hamilton County are about 20% of the population, and they have a disproportionate number of babies killed. Abortion, from Margaret Sanger, has a eugenic goal, and part of that is to reduce the number of unwanted peoples. And blacks in the abortion establishment are considered unwanted. They are considered a lesser class of people. The eugenic spirit lives, even though activists for abortion, inspired and encouraged by Alan Guttmacher Institute and other organizations, would say by all means that is not true. We are an equal opportunity activists. We favor the deaths of anybody who doesn't need to be born if the mother determines in her own best interest, right, in the protection of her reproductive system, that child is an obstacle to her success, her enjoyment of life, her pleasures, her convenience, that boy or girl must be dispatched. And we activists are all for that, and we are equal opportunity. We do not favor necessarily abortions among blacks or whites, but in Nashville, my son Josiah, the motorcyclist in Nashville, notices how the abortion clinics are near the poor, near the parts of town where the poor live, so that they might have easy access for intentional termination of pregnancy services. Is this something that Chattanoogans will be praying about on Thursday? Is it something that matters to us here? Is it something that matters to you, my listener? I hope it is, even though you may not have any religious interest, may not be a church-going person, may not have any claims on the Lord Jesus, and think he has no claims upon you. Is it something that we should care about, just generally speaking? I would say maybe yes. This is David Tulis, and I do thank you for joining me here at Nooga Radio. There is a lot to get to today, especially as we make note of the Times Free Press's excellent page one coverage of Officer David Campbell and his firing. Excellent coverage, top of the fold, A1. I believe that was Saturday's editions. And Campbell, and the paper is really doing a great catch-up job on that story, which we've had consistently here at Nooga Radio. The Hanson Melvin arrest, and the same night in May, as another person also falsely arrested, falsely charged, the victim of perjury by an officer. One officer is fired, David Campbell, and another officer, Officer Jeff Ron, not fired for an almost identical egregious offense against an innocent person who was arrested in her evening clothes and taken to jail, and a woman who has since moved away from Chattanooga. And we are here at AM 1240 and FM 92.7 Nooga Radio, covering local economy and the free market. That's my goal here, and that's the job to which you have assigned me. And I do thank you for tuning in, just giving me a couple of minutes of your time. There is a lot to say about Hanson Melvin. In the video, which the Times Free Press rightly did what I should have done at the time, and that is get an open records copy of the arrest video of Hanson Melvin. For some reason, though I've used that process before, I did not think to ask about his case. It was, in fact, on video, and was a great credit to Hanson Melvin. Hanson Melvin, a family man, a Christian. He happens to be black, and the fact that he's black, I think, makes the story a bit more poignant than it might be otherwise. But the problem that we face as citizens in Helle County and in places all across Southeast Tennessee, in fact, all across the country, is that we have executive department agencies such as police departments, which serve Mayor Andy Burke in Chattanooga, Silent Andy, unknowable Andy, the man who you can't find and can't see, whose department does not call back. His office is impossible to reach, and who oversees a police department whose PR people, whose media people are impossible to reach. They do not call back. These departments operate often without probable cause, and probable cause lets that officer know his job. If he has the idea of probable cause in mind, he will remember that his job is to protect life. It is to protect the innocent, women and children. It is to enhance the safety of the people. It is to make sure that their lives are not encumbered by damage, by malefactors, by evildoers, that their property is safe, and that their persons are safe in their mobile property and in their immobile property. That is to say, their property in their homes, as well as that as they travel or operate a motor vehicle, whichever one. And they are reminded of their duty when they think about probable cause. In other words, I can't approach anybody with force unless I have probable cause. Absent that, or the lesser, weaker version that's now popular and protected by the court, reasonable suspicion, I'm impotent to do anything. I'm just another person. I'm wearing a blue uniform. I'm wearing my armor plate. I'm wearing my taser, my gas. I'm wearing my pistol and my extra belts of ammo. But I'm just an ordinary person until the probable cause claim comes to me and gives me reason to approach some person with the command voice and say, okay, show me your papers. What are you doing? And that kind of thing. That cannot be done without probable cause. Probable cause in the Constitution protects the innocent and reminds the officer of the limits of his authority. He has no authority. He is impotent to act, incapable of acting apart from it. And that is something that we did not have in the Hanson Melvin case. It was not there from the beginning. And Hanson Melvin did what every person should do. He was a belligerent claimant in person, and he asserted his rights. And even as he was arrested, even as he was being driven to the jail downtown, he exhibited a remarkable Christian grace. And I would say that you, my listener, should go to the Times Free Press website if it's not blocked off by the gatekeeper and watch the video it has posted. It's edited for length. It's about 3 minutes long and has the highlights of his ride to the jail. He was approached by Officer Campbell at the end of a disorderly event where some people had been fighting elsewhere in an apartment complex, Northgate Crossing Apartments here in Hickson. And he was just leaving his apartment to go to get some milk or some goods for a child. This was very late at night. And Officer Campbell recognized him and said he admitted that he had harassed him. He admitted that he had stopped this man many times. And now he demanded of Hanson Melvin, have you gotten your driver's license situation straightened out? And then he demanded, and Hanson Melvin said no. And Officer Campbell demanded to see it. And then he demanded to have Hanson Melvin's social security number. And then before you could know, I was surprised how quickly this happened. He grunted and grustled at Hanson and said, "Put your hands behind your back, lean on the roof of the car or the hood of the car." And he used the word MF, get the keys out of your MFing hands, David Campbell said. That's a firing offense in my mind right there, Chief Fletcher. And arrested him and charged him with disorderly conduct. Now, the ride to the jail where an innocent, godly Christian man, innocent of any wrong, was arrested, he asked, "Why are you arresting me? What have I done?" And David Campbell said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's just disorderly conduct. You'll be out in a couple hours." And Hanson Melvin said, "I can't afford to have it. I can't afford that on my crime. Do you know how hard it is for me to get a job? This is just going to make it even harder for me to get a job." He pleaded with this officer to let him go. And at the end of the excerpts that are posted at ChattanoogaTimes.com's website, he says, this is part of God's providence, and you're going to remember me. You're going to remember that you've done me wrong, but God intends it for good. That is essentially the last quote of Hanson Melvin, and he's right. Campbell got fired, and the news about Campbell's abuses of his authority are several, and that was what was covered mostly in the report, and that is about his unbelievably fast driving without reason, without raising the risks for everybody. He drove at 120 miles an hour on Lupton Drive, according to the Times Free Press roundup of his offenses, violating department policy. 114 miles on Hickson Pike Stack past Steak and Shake. 106 miles an hour passing Publix on North Market Street. 104 miles an hour on Hickson Pike over Highway 153. All again without real cause and not being a life and death emergency or anything of that kind. Officer David Campbell fired. Now, the question that I have is in the direction and comes to the desk of an important state actor in Tennessee, and that is District Attorney Neil Pinkston, who represents Herbert Slatery, the Attorney General, who serves the governor. And the question is this: how is it that not prosecuting Jeff Ron and not prosecuting David Campbell for crimes is lawful? How does that maintain the peace and dignity of the state? These two officers, and I'm thinking now of the one who has not been approached by internal review, and has not. I don't think his victim's complaint, I don't know, has gone anywhere. And I don't even know if the woman finished her complaint. But it is this: if you perjure yourself on your police report, that's misdemeanor perjury. If you repeat your lies before the grand jury, that's felony perjury. And these officers, I suspect, as I have reported this, I suspect that they are engaged. They have involved themselves in a crime. And the prosecutor, the district attorney Neil Pinkston, is declining to prosecute. These if this has happened, these are crimes. These are crimes by state actors in their uniform, acting on behalf of the mayor against innocent people. And this is a problem, and we need to ask, is it something we should pray about? Are these the kinds of things that need to be prayed about by Christian people who have the ear of God, who have the power of God's intercessory strength, availing itself for the benefit of his people, for also the exercise of his wrath? God judges peoples and he blesses peoples. Why? How does he determine whether a city is judged or a city is blessed? Is a city blessed by having a police department, or is it judged by having a police department? It's not neutral. I don't think it can be neutral. Now, some good can come from policing, no doubt, and evil can come in it as well and from it as well. What are the proportions? At what point can you balance these out? Is it just neutral because they balance themselves out? I'm not sure about that. This is David Tulis, and we are here at Nooga Radio. Our argument is local economy and free market in Chattanooga and beyond. Local economy and free markets in Chattanooga and beyond were brought to you by Window Depot Chattanooga, and you can find out more about that fine business at windowdepotchattanooga.com. Also, Boyd's Speedway. Looking ahead now to the coming Saturday, great doings at Boyd's Speedway. David Tulis, love your neighbor and buy local.
Hot News Talk 1240. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. 2 shootings over the weekend in Chattanooga. The first on Wilson Road, where the man was shot from a passing vehicle multiple times and rushed to the hospital. He's expected to survive. The second, 22-year-old Quadarius Bowling, was shot on East 25th Street near East Lake Courts. He was shot once. They believe he's part of the Bounty Hunter Bloods gang, the police say. There's a feud between the Bounty Hunter Bloods and the Athens Park Bloods, and the police say that's most likely the motive. 59-year-old Lamorris Martin was brutally butchered, stabbed to death on Broad Street early Sunday morning. When the police got there, they almost immediately arrested Rachel Green, who's 51 years old. She's now charged with criminal homicide, is being held on $100,000 bond. At the Blue Hole in Saudi Daisy, rescuers were called out after a man who was believed to have slipped off of a rope swing and smashed his head. When rescuers got there, he refused medical attention, and he and his friends were extricated by the emergency crews. Hamilton County EMS also on scene. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect drier weather to return for your afternoon with some sunshine returning, but still quite windy from time to time. A wind advisory still in effect, highs lower 70s. Tonight, clear, cooler, lows near 50. For Tuesday, a beautiful day. Sunshine, upper 70s, around 80 Wednesday. Do you have a pesky tree that needs to be removed near your home or business? Call Paul Bunyan Tree Service at 423-421-0962. That's 421-0962. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chucks him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
I've been a customer at SNS 14 years. It's way out of my way, but I'm well treated. I believe what I'm told. Price is reasonable. David Tulis here. Make an SNS appointment today. This week, get $50 off any 30,000-mile service or timing belt repair, and get a free combat knife as a gift. SNS Auto Repair specializes in Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. 6-time winner of Best of the Best award in the Times 3 Press. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Final expenses, funeral cost, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
I've got a $10 bill for you at the best paint store in Chattanooga. David here. Big savings in exterior stains. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. More than a paint store. Bring up $100 on your next upgrade. Plunk down just $90. Save on all outdoor stains in stock at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. Prolix Sickens. Benjamin Moore, Flood, Sanson, Richards. 10% off through May 13. Jim and his team are here to help and advise and to help you hold on to your money. 5529 Hickson Pike. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. ChattanoogaPaint.com.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
President Trump has named to a low post at the Department of Health and Human Services a woman, Charmaine Yost, who is the former president of Americans United to Life, which is a prominent right to life organization. Her job is will be in communications. What LifeSiteNews.com says is the top communications post for the agency. She would become the Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs, the Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs for that executive branch agency. Yost is an HHS political appointee, but her appointment does not require Senate confirmation. She'll succeed Kevin Griffiths, who was recently named Vice President of Communications for Planned Parenthood. So she's taking the place of a pro-abortion, abort-minded state official, and she'll be there representing Trump's ostensible pro-life record that he started in January with reinstating the Mexico City policy that defunds international Planned Parenthood. And he will continue with defunding the pro-abortion UNFPA, according to LifeSiteNews.com. And he also signed a bill that allows states to defund Planned Parenthood, the abortion company. She's a former vice president of Family Research Council, and the story says is well respected in pro-life movement, and has frequently spoken out about the right to life vis-a-vis Planned Parenthood, the Great Combine, the harvesting organization for women who want to get rid of their boys and girls. Don't have to worry about the life of the child. We will take care of that for you. No messy moral quandaries for you. Chattanooga.com has a story about Judge Walter Williams. He is an attorney emeritus at McCoon Williams, Ashley, and Stanley, the law firm here in Chattanooga. You can find out more about that, about what that outfit offers by tuning into our radio station, AM 1240 and FM 92.7 Nooga Radio. You can hear about some of these fine attorneys there and all the great services. Walter Williams may be going back on the bench as an administrative hearing officer, a new position. The story says that his law license was transferred to disability inactive status. In 2015, he had suffered a stroke, and he's largely recovered from that, though the story says he is still receiving therapy for speech and his predominant, his writing hand. City officials say that the law judge would be able to set fines up to $500 rather than the $50 limits on municipal judges. Now, I'm wondering about that because that's a reference to the constitutional provision cited by defendant Basil Marceau, criminal defendant Basil Marceau. You can read about Basil Marceau's arguments about the power of the constitutional provision that prohibits any municipal government from punishing anybody. It has no authority to punish, but only to fine. And the noted early 1990s case, Chattanooga versus Myers, explains that a fine is not punishment. It is restorative of the loss of function, if you will, in the city because of some violation of an ordinance. It is not punishment. It is a restorative claim of money by the city upon a party. And so the $50 rule in the Constitution says that no one can be tried for any offense absent a jury. And there is a rule that says there's a $50 limit on punishment. So if there's anything more than that, it has to be tried by a jury, which means a civil case in a real court or a criminal case. This is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple minutes of your time. We're brought to you by Boyd Speedway and also by Window Depot of Chattanooga. And I'm your host here. We cover local economy and the free market. We want there to be more local and more free, more local economy, more free markets, which is to say markets in which no one has an advantage by law, where there are no special people with special favor, right? People who have special privileges and titles, and you might say ranks of nobility to do things that other people are not allowed to do. And there is a general prohibition against titles of nobility in the Tennessee Constitution and even in the federal Constitution. And yet, because we are somewhat negligent about how things have developed, we are letting the state itself be the grantor of these special favors. I'd say there's much of what operates as routine government in Tennessee is open for a proper appeal by someone who's willing to fight for the right to be free. And that would be on the grounds that the state has no authority to grant a special favor to act in a discriminatory fashion, favoring one party over another. And that's what licenses are. Licenses say you are forbidden from doing this particular calling, or you're forbidden from doing this particular activity unless you come to us for permission to do that. And that makes the state an unjust and superior actor in the market, and that's not allowed. It's not permitted. Now, we here at Nooga Radio, and I, David Tulis, your host, the editor of Nooganomics.com, we argue the dissenting opinion. And in making our dissent, we say that near is better than far, small is better than big, and that simple is better than complex. And in the footnotes, where even there, the good people in Nashville and in Washington will say otherwise, we say in 5-point type. It's bold, but it's still 5-point, but it's bold. And it says that personal is better than corporate and that physical is better than abstract. Now, Luther Strange is a federal senator. He took the place of Jeff Sessions, who is now, he was a replacement for now Attorney General Jeff Sessions in Alabama. And he's being given a special favor, you might say, by the National Republican Senatorial Committee, whose members don't like Roy Moore. Roy Moore, the ousted Supreme Court justice, twice ousted Supreme Court justice, is going to be running for Senate. And so the Republican establishment, according to Daniel Horowitz, writing about a Politico report, says that this committee has warned at least two firms, two advisory firms, not to support anyone who might be in favor of Roy Moore or to favor Roy Moore. The two firms are Jamestown Associates and Strategic Perception. These are lobbies and political advisors. Don't take on clients who are running or considering running against Luther Strange. And that is because we've declared that Strange is the incumbent. And therefore, since he's the Republican incumbent, you can't support a challenger to an incumbent. And so that's putting a bit of cold water on efforts to get Roy Moore's campaign into gear. Republicans don't like Roy Moore. He stands for principle, and Republicans don't. And so that's why the establishment in Alabama is making it hard for Roy Moore to get professional advice for his campaign. You know, I sometimes wonder if he really needs it. He just needs to stand on principle and to be himself. And that way, he is the genuine article, and he's not all smoothed over, right? He's a rough and plain-spoken jurist and public man and statesman. He is even a statesman. Maybe he doesn't need professional advice, but perhaps he does. Perhaps on some things it would be good for him to have that. And here he's being blocked. Tennessee government is in many ways not caring about the people. It pretends to be protecting and serving. In 2015, Tennessee government allowed 9,113 babies belonging to women who reside in one or other of the 95 counties in the state to destroy their children. So 9,113 children were destroyed among marrieds. There were 1,099 women who destroyed their children with aid of what's euphemistically called an abortion doctor. And among unmarried women, 7,810 babies were destroyed. So it's interesting that there is loose sexual activity among unmarrieds, so much so that nearly 8,000 children are destroyed. In Hamilton County, the ratio of married to unmarried is this way. Among married, 30 children destroyed. Among unmarried women, 118 children destroyed. The rate of blacks being destroyed is about double that of whites. The white rate per 1,000 women is 1.7, and among black women is 2.2. So 2.2 women among 1,000 destroyed their children, and 1.7 white women among 1,000 destroyed their children. And the ratio of births, also interesting to look at per 1,000. The white ratio is 31.9, or let's see, or 1,000 or 100 babies slain. Okay, so but the raw numbers are there were 100 babies slain versus 3,136 live births. So among women cited by state data that I checked this morning, 3,136 live births, and of those 100 babies torn to shreds in various abortion clinics. There are about 7 of them in the state: Memphis, Nashville, Tri-Cities. Among blacks, 48 babies slain versus 1,000, and that would be I'm not sure if I'm looking here at this is Hamilton County data. I'm sorry. 48 babies slain versus 1,110 live births in 2015, and that is a picture of the number of children destroyed in Tennessee with the sanction and permission of state government, which pretends to have the interest of the people, all people, boys and girls, men and women, in view, and yet a state with its departments in the counties and cities that says, well, we're going to honor the High Court in its Roe v. Wade decision, 1973. An opinion is just an opinion, and that opinion we're going to view as law. And so our laws are of no effect. In Chattanooga, there was a clinic, Chattanooga Women's Clinic, that you can read about at Nooganomics.com, that destroyed about 30,000 children altogether, 30,000 children slain, butchered on Vance Road. The former clinic is now the National Memorial of the Unborn, and across the street from which is a pro-life, one of the choicest pro-life branches. There are great efforts among Christians in Chattanooga to give the reason for abortion less view and give the reason for life more view, greater view among women who have conceived after having sex. They've conceived and are uncertain about what to do. They have a right, so-called, to abortion, and to encourage them not to exercise that right, they are given all kinds of encouragement and help and means by Christian people through Choices Pregnancy Center. I was looking at lifesidenews.com this morning, and there's a story that has quotes from people who are involved in the baby killing trade. It's these are statements that they make that make it very clear that they know they're destroying human life, and yet without heart, without mercy, they take the lives of these children. There's a former abortionist, Dr. David Brewer. He's recalling his early days when he was a student, and he is describing this. He says, "I opened the jar and took the little piece of stocking and opened the little bag. The resident doctor said, 'Now put it on the blue towel and check it out. We want to see if we got it all.' I thought, that'll be exciting, hands-on experience looking at tissue. I opened the sock up and put it on the towel, and there were parts of a person in there. I had taken anatomy. I knew what I was looking at. There was a little scapula and an arm. I saw some ribs and a chest and a tiny head. I saw a piece of leg and a tiny hand and an arm. Well, I checked it out, and there were 2 arms and 2 legs and 1 head and so forth. And I turned and said, I guess you got it all." There's also a quote from Sue Hertz, who spent a year observing at a clinic, and she says, "It was easy to shrug off an aborted pregnancy as nothing more than a sack of blood and globs of tissue, as many pro-choice activists did, if one never saw fetal remains." And then she describes an 11-week-old aborted baby harbored tiny arms and legs with feet and toes. At 12 weeks, those tiny hands had tiny nails. Pieces of face, a nose, a mouth, or a black eye were sometimes found in the aftermath. In my second year, another doctor is saying, in my second year of residency, I spent 2 months at a pathology rotation, and I had to come face to face with the contents of those sacs. We were studying the embryology of the ovary. The jumbled up mass of tissue was easily identifiable as the torn and shredded body of a tiny human being. Half of the aborted females, of the aborted fetuses, were males. And there's another description in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology of the various ways to perform an abortion after the midpoint of pregnancy. There is only one that never ever results in live births. However, it is particularly stressful to medical personnel. That is because D&E requires literally cutting the fetus from the womb and then reassembling the parts, or at least keeping them all in view to assure that the abortion is complete. You are doing a destructive process. Arms, legs, chests come out in the forceps. It's not a sight for everybody. And there's an author named Peter Korn, and he has a book called Lovejoy, A Year in the Life of an Abortion Clinic. Sounds like a cheersome volume, doesn't it? Still holding the forceps, abortionist Lane begins pulling, tearing apart the fetus. The first 3 tugs yield indistinguishable tissue. The 4th brings out more solid mass, which clinic worker Aniki, from her position in the back of the small room, immediately recognizes as the trunk of a fetus. Tiny hands and feet, extracted next, are the most recognizable. The pieces of the fetus and the placenta are placed by Lane on the surgical tray at his side. There's a doctor, an author, B.D. Cohen, who describes the D&E this way. He says, after dilating or opening the cervix, the physician used a curette, the gynecological version of a sharpened spoon, to cut the fetus into pieces. He would then remove them with forceps. A large petri dish sat on an instrument stand to the right of the girl's feet. From time to time during the procedure, the physician would tap his forceps on the edge of the dish. He would tap the forceps on the edge of the dish, and into the muck would drop a foot, a hand, or a piece of rib cage. Wendy Simon's pro-choice author. Her book is a fabulous read, by the way. Abortion at Work, Ideology and Practice in a Feminist Clinic. Because it looks like a baby, she says. That's what it looks like to me. You've never seen anything else that looks like that. The only other thing you've ever seen is a baby. You can see a face and hands and ears and eyes. And feet and toes. There's a prayer event Thursday here in Chattanooga. And the question I have is, will people who are Christians pray that there be godly men who stop this grisly trade in Chattanooga, where there are no clinics operating that we know of, but Chattanooga being in a county from which 100 women live, from which 151 boys and girls were destroyed. Where is the despair that leads women to do this? There must be great heartbreak. There must be great loss of consolation, loss of love. There must be great alienation in Chattanooga for women, 151 of them at least. Well, at the most, 151 of them. Some may have had twins whom they killed. So there must be a great deal of despair and anguish in a city that would have women, that has among its peoples women who destroy their children. There are numerous things I would like to suggest that could be prayed for, and that would be that Neil Pinkston, the district attorney, would prosecute criminals whether they are in uniform or out. There needs to be an end to the skimming of the poor in Chattanooga by police operations throughout the municipal jurisdictions in this county. There needs to be an end to the public school system, which in its war on morality and independence creates people who are consumers, borrowers, and destined for obesity, destined to believe in advertising, destined not to be able to make up their own minds about anything, destined to be dependent on the state and unwilling to serve God and their neighbor. We need to pray about the state highwayman program, in which drug task forces rob people on the highways. It is a continuing problem, and millions of dollars have been stolen from the people, and thousands of people have been stopped and robbed by police departments in Tennessee. Do Christians know about this? Is this something that God forbids? Is it a crime for that to happen? What about the Todd Gardenhire bill reining in what's called civil asset forfeiture, which is the official public name of this fine benefit? What about the travel lockdown imposed by the state and defended by police officers and sheriff's deputies such as Mark Kimsey and Tracy Trott up in Nashville? The travel lockdown on the exercise of the free right of travel. By whom? By all immigrants who drive outside the licensing procedure of the state of Tennessee. What about the state's rejection of marriage? Tennessee rejects marriage. None of its officials intend to stand or have stood to defend the constitutional provision of holding marriage as between one man and one woman. What about that? Is that something Christian people realize is an assault on God? If it's an assault on God, why are we not angry? Why are Christian people who claim to represent God's interests in Hamilton County, why are they not praying about it? Why are we not hearing more about this grievance? Is it a grievance, or is it just something that happened in the headlines? What about the refusal to enforce constitutional coin and currency to defend the free market? What about that? Can we pray about that? This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com, Chattanooga's premier house buyer. Do you have a house you need to sell fast? We are buying. Call us today. We are local folks. We will buy your house as is, no repairs needed. We will give you a cash offer and close on the day of your choice. Call us right now, 423-834-7321. Need to sell a house fast? We are buying. Are you experiencing one of these situations? Inherited a house you have no need for? Behind on your property taxes? Nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Too many repairs needed and don't have a desire to fix? Behind on payments and facing foreclosure? Recently divorced and need a way out of the house? Never really wanted to be a landlord and just want to cash out? Trying to relocate and need to sell your house? Do you need to sell a house fast? We are buying. No fees, no hassles, no repair costs. Close on the day of your choice. Our process is simple. Call us today. We inspect your property right away. We make you a fair cash offer. We close on the day of your choice. Call us today, 423-834-7321. Visit our website, iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. Call us today, 423-834-7321. iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shalford Road. Call 894-0011 today.
Here comes the bride, here comes the bride. She's walking down the street.
And she's wearing a stunning diamond ring that's a fraction of the cost that her man would have paid at one of those overpriced mall jewelry stores. Rick Davis has a plethora on quality diamonds and gold rings, and he wants to pass the savings on to you. Did I say plethora? How about overabundance? That's right, an overabundance of gold and diamonds. So before you decide to get crazy and pay full retail on an overpriced piece of jewelry from one of those cookie-cutter mall jewelry stores, come on out and see Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Top quality gold and diamonds at a fraction of the cost. Enter marital bliss with an engagement and wedding ring from Rick Davis. Hey, he'll also buy your gold and diamonds with cash, and more cash. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And there goes another happy bride.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson, Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
I have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, David Tulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga,
WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Settapani. The White House believes a reworked Republican health care bill has the votes to pass the House this week. CBS News correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
Now that a group of skeptical conservatives has gotten behind the bill, the White House believes the repeal measure is ready for a floor vote. On CBS this morning, Gary Cohn, the president's top economic advisor, said a great week is in store.
We're convinced we've got the votes, and we're going to keep moving on with our agenda.
The GOP proposal would allow states to opt out of many of Obamacare's coverage requirements. Democrats and independent experts worry the measure would subject those with pre-existing conditions to huge cost increases. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
The government will get all the money it needs to stay open through September. The president signed off on a budget deal with congressional leaders late last night. Unions and other groups around the world are holding traditional May Day marches. In Paris, police fired tear gas at rowdy protesters who threw Molotov cocktails. Here at home, immigrant groups are encouraging workers to take the day off. Jorge Mojica is an organizer in Chicago.
By just not going to work, we are going to prove that many companies depend on us, whether as workers or as clients.
A new government report describes the heavy toll the war in Afghanistan is taking on civilians. CBS's Cammie McCormick has that.
This report claims conflict-related casualties in Afghanistan are at the highest level since documenting began in 2009. Security incidents are on the rise, reaching their highest levels since 2007. More than 500,000 Afghans fled their homes in 2016. Casualties suffered by the Afghan security forces, the Inspector General calls them shockingly high.
Human rights groups have raised a hue and cry over a White House invitation for Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte, whose unapologetic drug crackdown has claimed thousands of lives. Duterte says he may have to turn the invitation down because he's tied up. The gunfire that erupted at an apartment complex pool party in San Diego left a woman dead and 6 other people wounded before police shot and killed the gunman.
He had a beer in one hand with his gun in the other. There was 2 victims laying on the ground, one trying to crawl towards the other one to help.
The gunman was white and the victims were not, but it's not clear if race was the motive. Parts of the South could take a pounding today from violent weather. Tornadoes and floods over the weekend killed at least 16 from Texas to Missouri. CBS's Tony DeCopel's in Van Buren, Missouri, where floodwaters were chest high.
Right now, the water is going down, revealing giant pieces of debris. I mean, fuel tanks, big ice chests, telephone poles.
Kelly Ripa kept a promise to her fans. Her new daytime co-host made his first appearance on the show today.
Now, here are Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest.
In early trading on Wall Street, the Dow Industrials are down 8.5 points. This is CBS News.
Ransomware is software that can infiltrate your business through email, enabling cyber criminals to hijack sensitive information as ransom for your own data's release. Leveraging Barracuda email security with advanced threat detection can stop a ransomware attack in its tracks. As an added measure, Barracuda Backup allows you to recover your data without having to surrender to extortion. Crime doesn't pay when you protect your business data with Barracuda. Go to barracuda.com/ransomware to learn more.
Let me ask you a question. Can you keep your 401k or IRA safe from the death of the dollar and from the possible new Cold War with Russia? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 rated gold IRA company in America by TrustLink. Over 50,000 people have requested our Gold IRA investment guide to learn how to protect their retirement savings. Find out how quick and easy it can be to convert your retirement fund to gold. Just call 800-900-8000 right now. That's 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
By this time tomorrow, movie and TV scriptwriters could be walking picket lines. CBS's Steve Futterman has the story from Los Angeles.
The two sides face a midnight deadline, although it's always possible they could agree to extend the talks if progress is being made. There are several key issues, including medical benefits and the amount of money TV writers are paid for shows that have limited episodes. The last time a strike took place was in 2007. That strike lasted more than 3 months.
Americans kept their arms folded and their wallets in their pockets in March. The government says consumer spending overall was flat, with a big drop in spending on new cars and other durable goods. North Korea is suggesting it may conduct another nuclear test blast despite the threat of military action by the United States. At Cape Canaveral this morning, the SpaceX company successfully launched a top-secret government spy satellite. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. 2 shootings over the weekend in Chattanooga. The first on Wilson Road, where a man was shot from a passing vehicle multiple times and rushed to the hospital. He's expected to survive. The second, 22-year-old Cordarius Bowling, was shot on East 25th Street near East Lake Courts. He was shot once. They believe he's part of the Bounty Hunter Bloods gang, the police say. There's a feud between the Bounty Hunter Bloods and the Athens Park Bloods, and the police say that's most likely the motive. 59-year-old Lamoris Martin was brutally butchered, stabbed to death on Broad Street early Sunday morning. When the police got there, they almost immediately arrested Rachel Green, who's 51 years old. She's now charged with criminal homicide, is being held on $100,000 bond. At the Blue Hole in Saudi Daisy, rescuers were called out after a man who was believed to have slipped off of a rope swing and smashed his head. When rescuers got there, he refused medical attention, and he and his friends were extricated by the emergency crews. Hamilton County EMS also on scene. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect a breezy and wet start to your Monday. Morning showers, though, will push off to the east. Drier for the afternoon with some sun returning. Highs lower to middle 70s. Tonight, lows a little cooler between 50 and 53. For Tuesday, a nice day. Sunshine, upper 70s, around 80 on Wednesday. Get ready for Riverbend 2017, June 9th through the 17th. Get discounted Riverbend admission at area Circle K locations on sale now. And for more, their website, riverbendfestival.com. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On Nooga Radio AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
We would be a freer people in Chattanooga and Helle County if we just learned our spelling. We are making a spelling mistake. And the word, it's a two-letter word. It has one vowel and one consonant. The vowel is O and the consonant is N. Now, we're spelling it wrong. We're spelling it O-N, as in on, getting along, making do, just getting along with the way that things are. And the spelling should be really N-O. And that would be, of course, the word no. We should say no. And we should do, as Hanson Melvin did, say no and defend his own innocency against a false arrest, a false charge by Officer David Campbell, whose exploits as a Chattanooga police officer are highlighted in the weekend editions of the Chattanooga Time-Free Press, top of the page on A1, a story that rightly belongs there by Emmett Gienap, the young reporter. It rightly belongs on the top of the page. And the headline online is "Report Reveals New Information About Fired Chattanooga Officer." Hanson Melvin, his victim, 28, said no. He was arrested without probable cause, without reasonable suspicion in May, and was taken to the jail and was booked and had now for a time a blot on his record that he is a black man, young black man, finds it hard to bear. And many men among his race have the same problem. They have records of careless dealings with the police, who deal carelessly with them, and against whom sometimes they perhaps are careless as well. Hanson is married. He and his wife Tara have 3 children from 11 months to 3 years old. He was arrested by Officer David Campbell, who was fired. And the firing is administrative. It's not really a remedy. It's not restorative of Hanson Melvin's dignity. And it is also an event that I would suggest is a crime. It's a crime to be to put someone under bar and under arrest who has not done anything. It's a crime to perjure yourself. His police report was perjured, and his grand jury testimony was perjured as well. Hanson Melvin, why did you say, "I'm not going to plead guilty," which was proposed at a Sessions Court hearing? Why did you not agree to that? Why did you demand the right to be indicted?
Well, during the whole ordeal, before I went to court the first time, I did a lot of research on what was the best way to handle it, and I talked to a couple of friends, and the reason why I didn't want to get in, the reason why I wanted to get indicted was so we can have a jury trial, so it can bring in people, people from out on the street that can relate to the situation, that can maybe possibly give a fair judgment, or maybe they will throw it out. We was really trying to be strategic about how we handle the situation, so I wouldn't get mixed in the system.
So you didn't get on. You said no instead, right?
Yes.
You said no. And were you indicted?
Yes, sir, it was. What is
it like to be indicted? How was that handled?
It's actually not as bad as it sounds. It's nothing like the movies. It's really was like to be indicted. It was interesting.
You had a bondsman.
Oh yeah, I had a bondsman. Basically, they set you up a court hearing before the indictment, and It's really a strategic thing.
You had a hearing in Sessions Court, right? And
Yes.
and it was proposed that you plead guilty. This was after you were indicted. You were cited to Sessions Court. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you were indicted. And what happened then? What did you do then?
During the hearing?
Well, there was a hearing in which you signed a document that you waived your right. You waived your rights to a preliminary hearing in Sessions, right?
Yes.
And then the accusation by Neil Pinkston went to the grand jury. The grand jury agreed with the report by Officer David Campbell.
Yes. Basically went to the hearing, and they've already had the paperwork and everything. They wanted me to take the plea. That's what they do. I mean, you as a person that's going into the courtroom, they want you to take the plea, make the job easier, take the plea. I demanded my right to be indicted, which would allow my case to go higher. People will actually look at my case once I've been indicted. And that was the important strategy we was trying to use, to have the case actually looked at. Once the indictment took hold, we had made an appointment to talk to Neil Pinkston. We did that, and we talked to him, and he was the one that told us 98% of those cases he don't even see. That's just from the hearing that make it to the hearing. So if you are going to the court for the first time, your case hadn't even been looked at. Just want you to know that as the listener. Your case hasn't been looked at. No one's looked at. Nobody's looked at the details. So it's your job to make sure that they see what really happened.
And now, to get the indictment, the officer David Campbell had to testify before the grand jury about what happened, right?
Yes, sir.
And since he had committed himself on paper in his accusatory report, he had to be consistent with that. And presumably, he testified the same lies on before the grand jury as he did on the paper.
Right.
We weren't there to know, but to get an indictment, he had to make out that you were on that night you were causing a riot.
Yes.
Well, what happened on the night of your arrest, Hanson Melvin? What is false arrest? What were you doing to be arrested? What was the disorderly conduct that you were said to have been involved in?
Well, basically, me and a friend of mine was walking outside of my apartment, and it was already an altercation out there. It was like 30 or 40 people. Had to be 8 to 9 police cars out there. He had parked all the way to the further end of the apartment complex, so it was away from the altercation. So we made a way to go to his car. Upon approaching his car, I was approached by Officer David Tulis and
Campbell.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
David Tulis. That's me. Go ahead.
Officer David Campbell, and he asked me if I had my license, and he knew me prior to pulling me over before that I might or might not have my license. And he just asked me a personal question that he had no business asking me, and I denied him the answer that he wanted to hear. I told him it was none of his business, and I tried to make my way away from the situation that was rising into an altercation, and he wouldn't let me free. He wanted to frisk me. He wanted to see my ID, even though he knew me as a person already. Personally, you can hear it in the video when I was in the back of the police car. That he pulled me over plenty of times. He knew me personally, and he
admitted prior to your arrest that he had pulled you when he was explaining your arrest to his a colleague. He said, I've dealt with him many times.
Yes.
Had he been an officer who had harassed you many times, or had he lawfully stopped you on prior occasions?
He's unlawfully stopped me while walking in the store, in the gas station before, but he's unlawfully also stopped me while I was on the road, but I wasn't the driver. I was with a friend, and he stopped that since he knows that, knew that friend vehicle and whatnot. He stopped him several times, and I was happen to be with him at all those times he stopped him.
Now, you're black, right?
Yes, sir.
How many times have you been stopped on the road by Chattanooga Police Department?
Man, probably at least 40 times. And I'm not lying. At least 40. At least 40. You can check my records, and I never had an altercation with any police where I've gotten abusive with him with words, and he said more than I can take. They have said things to me that I'm like, oh, but it's not anything for me to make a big deal out of. Just I'm trying to get on with my night, so that's pretty much how I've handled all my altercation with police. since before I ran into David Campbell that night. You know, I usually comply with, you know, I just you go along with whatever you got to do so you won't make it.
You are you deal with the police officer as a black slave might deal with a proprietor or owner,
right,
or field manager,
right. You don't
in
want
an
to
old plantation.
You don't want to make any trouble for yourself, any more trouble for yourself.
So you become obsequious and obeisant and compliant. That's what, and I think, and I'm white. The listener probably knows that I'm a Caucasian, and I'm rare. I'm not stopped routinely. I've never been stopped routinely for any reason. And here among, let me ask you this, Hanson Melvin, are black men, younger black men, generally subject to the kind of treatment you've been subjected to in Chattanooga?
Of course. My case is nothing special by far, and I always tell people that there's nothing special by far. I just decided that night not to take it anymore, and it wasn't on choice. It just came out of me.
And you told me earlier, this is David Tulis. We've chatted with Hanson Melvin before in some detail about his ordeal, that when you first stepped out of the apartment, you said, wow, there are a lot of police out here. You thought, maybe I shouldn't go until they're all gone.
Yes.
But then you said, well, why would I need to do that? This is a free country. I've done nothing wrong. I'm not part of the fracas over further down at the parking lot. I'm going the other direction to the store. And then you end up being arrested.
Basically, that night I was trying to convince myself before I left that apartment that I wouldn't be harassed.
Maybe it's better to live in fear, Hanson Melvin, and not live courageously and boldly and go to the store to get your milk.
No,
right?
That's not true. Because if I went back in that house that night
and cowered,
there you go. and who's to say later on that night this David Campbell wouldn't have had another altercation with another young man somewhere.
Another young man who might not have had the resources you did. I mean, you had interest, you had self-interest. You were saying you're ready to do this, get the spelling correct, not say on, but say no. And part of saying no, Hanson Melvin, was that you also filed a complaint with the Division of Internal Affairs of that Mayor Andy Burke department.
Yes, sir. We had to drop a lot of hurdles for that first court date, and just trying to get things in line because I knew they was going to take me through the ringer. Just being prepared, and preparation is the most important thing for your case.
What about, let me ask you, speaking of things that you did, just after this happened, you wrote a detailed affidavit. What's the benefit for the listener if he has an encounter with police or some legal problem? What's the benefit of writing a detailed statement, and what was that about?
Well, the important thing, the important benefit of writing a detailed affidavit is you can always go back and look at it when you observing your case. It's important to get those details right then and there, because there's a lot of things that you will forget. There was a lot of things I said in that video that I forgot that I had said, or I tried to when you going over the case days after, you try to summarize everything, put things in the words. You need to have those important details right on hand, right in front of you. After all those things happened to me, getting out of jail and them messing with me the second time, right when we got out of jail, I went right in the house and I wrote down that affidavit.
Well, that's something else that is really striking about your case, Hanson Melvin, and it has not been aired publicly. And that is that after you were jailed, you were booked and jailed, and then you had your friend Collier Holmes make your bond, which is a percentage of the total. You arrived home with your friend. He picked you up. Right when you arrived in the parking lot of Northgate Crossings apartment complex, you were surrounded by police cars again. What was that about, and what can we make of that you might say the blue code that seems to be in view there?
Well, first of all, I took that second pullover as a situation he was trying to see where my head was at after what I was saying in the car to him. And this part of that video that they didn't put on in there because he started swearing. But when I was talking to him like that in that car, we pulled up at the jail, he told me to shut up. You know, he started cussing me because he was trying to write the report. And I was basically interrupting him while he was writing his report. But
as he was perjuring himself.
Yes. And basically I took that as it played, whatever I said played on his conscience until it was time for me to get out. So when they came and pulled, or didn't even pull us over, we was just sitting in the parked car. So when they came and counted us the second time, I took that as he was trying to see where my head was at. He was trying to smooth things over because he sent a friend over to me that I grew up with that was, running with them that night. The police department, Jeff Run, was the friend I'm talking about. He came over to try to talk and try to calm me down and everything. And I just took that as they was trying to, he knew he messed up somewhere along the lines.
So this was this an effort to intimidate you somehow?
Oh yeah.
How many officers were there and how many cars did they arrive in?
I think it was about 5.
And that must have been something arranged by cell phones and not through the radio network.
Oh yeah,
because that was a private visit by 5 officers and 5 cars to you, the defendant who was making a case and who's you're saying you had kind of pricked the conscience of David Campbell, who was doing the wrong thing from the beginning and was trying to be consistent in it.
Yes.
Well, you are a Christian man, Hanson Melvin. What is this ordeal given you in the way of insight for God's grace and mercy upon you? And question number 2 is, how is your ordeal typical of what thousands of people experience in Chattanooga? And is this something that should be a focus of prayer at part of the National Day of Prayer here in Chattanooga on Thursday at Chattanooga Christian School? How did those events, your experience in that event, touch each other?
Well, first of all, my whole event and whole experience was built on faith. I've been in situations where I've been wrong before and I retaliated, and it didn't end up good for me, and I wind up embarrassing myself. In this case with David Campbell, I didn't retaliate. I let God handle my situation for me, and in the end, it kept my character intact. And you can see that in the video. And I just thank God that he was with me that night and kept the right words in my mouth. I wasn't back there cursing them out, because I can guarantee you, if I was back there cursing them out, viewers or people that was watching the video would say, well, he deserved to went to jail that night, because that's how people think.
You expressed forgiveness and grace to this officer who was wronging you.
Oh yes. I do feel compassion for him. I hope he's doing well. And I hope he learns from this situation that, nobody should abuse the authority or the power that God gives them, and that's handed down in this jurisdiction down here that we live in, this mid-level realm. We need to handle it with better responsibility. We need to be more responsible with the things that we're given. It's not made for fun. It's made to be take serious. You should take your job a lot more serious and be a better person.
You've had many jobs, Hanson Melvin. You've been in the restaurant industry, and right now you work in a large processing plant. You have a record. This record ordeal is being expunged. Is that right?
Yes.
But you still have an earlier offense that's on the record. Many young men have records like yours. What would you say to them when when it's proposed to them that they plea bargain rather than await an indictment? How bad is it to be black, young, and have a criminal record? And why should they say no?
For your future. The decisions you make today affect you tomorrow. Yeah, you getting out of the court case today by pleading and saying all this, and it's because you don't want to put in the time to keep coming back in court. But the best thing for you is to put in that time, because I guarantee you later on down the road, you trying to get that job that's $21, $22 an hour. You actually qualified to get it. You have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the lust for the job. You want to work the job, and you can't get the job because you have something on your background.
And that's because you pleaded, you took the easy way out. And you, right, Hanson Melvin, did not take the easy way out.
And it's not the easy way out. It's everything that glitters isn't gold. So.
And when you had your first hearing in Sessions Court on the day your son, who's now 11 months, on the day he was born, you were in court.
Yes. The day he was born, I was in court. Right after I got of court, she went in labor. So,
so God has been very gracious to you. So let me ask you, Hanson Melvin, what should my listener's not necessarily a practicing Christian, but if you were, what should he pray about is regards to the abuse of common people like yourself, ordinary young people, especially males, by the officers of this city?
We need to pray for. I don't think we necessarily need to just pray for the Chattanooga Police Department. We need to pray for ourselves and each other. that we and David Campbell is not the only person that has treated anybody wrong. You know, he's not the only one. You, the listener, me, the speaker, I've done it. You know, I've mistreated people before. We all need to treat each other better. We need to pray to evaluate ourselves better as people and not look at each other so much. If you evaluate yourself as a person better, you'll be better. You can obtain more wisdom throughout your days and live longer, and you'll understand the people better. You understand how to treat people better, because you don't want to be treated that way, that you was mistreating someone else. So it's all about just loving and observing yourself and praying without ceasing. And if you're a head of a family, you need to always pray. If you're the man of the household, you need to make sure you're praying. Your kids, your wife, everyone is praying, because life is hard.
People who go to abortion clinics say, your life for mine, your life for mine. But the Christian, Hanson Melvin, says, my life for yours.
Right.
You put the other person first.
Right.
And that's the great example in Christianity and the great grace that it has to offer. And there is a prayer event as part of the National Day of Prayer that's coming up here in Chattanooga. It's Thursday, 6 p.m., Chattanooga Christian School. Make sure you go to the Times Free Press website and look for the Hanson Melvin story. If you're not a subscriber, you may be blocked, but his video is there. It's edited down. It has some remarkable things. An example of Christian grace, grace under fire, grace under oppression. An innocent man oppressed by the police. And he offers candor and grace to an officer who's just harsh and used abusive language to him. This is David Tulis. Hanson Melvin, thank you very much. Thank you. This is David Tulis. We're here at Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and FM 92.7, brought to you by Window Depot of Chattanooga. Window Depot, Chattanooga. David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM News Now. 2 shootings over the weekend in Chattanooga. The first on Wilson Road, where a man was shot from a passing vehicle multiple times and rushed to the hospital. He's expected to survive. The second, 22-year-old Quadarius Bowling, was shot on East 25th Street near East Lake Courts. He was shot once. They believe he's part of the Bounty Hunter Bloods gang, the police say. There's a feud between the Bounty Hunter Bloods and the Athens Park Bloods, and the police say that's most likely the motive. 59-year-old Lamoris Martin was brutally butchered, stabbed to death on Broad Street early Sunday morning. When the police got there, they almost immediately arrested Rachel Green, who's 51 years old. She's now charged with criminal homicide, is being held on $100,000 bond. At the Blue Hole in Saudi Daisy, rescuers were called out after a man who was believed to have slipped off of a rope swing and smashed his head. When rescuers got there, he refused medical attention, and he and his friends were extricated by the emergency crews. Hamilton County EMS also on scene. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect a breezy and wet start to your Monday. Morning showers, though, will push off to the east. Drier for the afternoon with some sun returning. Highs lower to middle 70s. Tonight, lows a little cooler between 50 and 53. For Tuesday, a nice day. Sunshine, upper 70s, around 80 on Wednesday. Get ready for Riverbend 2017, June 9th through the 17th. Get discounted Riverbend admission at area Circle K locations on sale now. And for more, their website, riverbendfestival.com. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Window Depot of Chattanooga. They're locally owned and operated and been around since 2008. Installing top-quality vinyl replacement windows. You get the best price and service in the area. Top-quality double pane, energy-efficient windows. They look great and save you money.
Oh, I love to save money.
You'll also save money on your heating and cooling costs. Call 894-0011. 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Sales and installation professionals. You'll get a fantastic job while helping to enhance the value, appearance, comfort, and efficiency of your most valuable asset, your home. Other window providers? No way. Window Depot Chattanooga's windows qualify for the TVA rebate. Sliding doors, gutters, soffits, fascia, garage doors, and other home improvements. If you want to save a ton, call 894-0011. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. WindowDepotChattanooga.com. Window Depot of Chattanooga. Sales and installation professionals.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field line failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Need windows? Hey folks, do you need new windows? Good news. Window Depot of Chattanooga has a great special going on right now. 10 high-quality, energy-efficient double-hung vinyl windows installed for only $29.90. That's right, 10 double-hung vinyl windows, only $2,990. And yes, they qualify for the TVA rebates. Call 894-0011. Window Depot of Chattanooga today, located at 5950 Shaliford Road. Call 894-0011 today. Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us. Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chops him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Fox News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
In 2015, Tennessee moms destroyed 9,113 children. And in Hamilton County in that year, 151 mothers of female people bearing children who are either of the male or female sex destroyed those children in their wombs in abortion clinics in Atlanta, Nashville, Tri-Cities, Knoxville, maybe some even in Memphis, according to state figures. It's a toll that we don't think much about. with blacks being disproportionately represented among the dead. Funerals are not held generally for these boys and girls. They're simply cut into pieces, and their body parts are reassembled in the petri dish to make sure that nothing is left inside the birth chamber, if you will, there in the woman's lower parts at the clinic. There are many things of concern that you could say are part of our cultural landscape, part of our religious heritage, and part of what we become. We have become a people that do this, and whose cities and towns yield men and women so despairing, so lost of heart that they will resort for their own convenience to destroying their children. There is coming on Thursday the Chattanooga part of the National Day of Prayer, and here to tell us about why Christian people are gathering to pray and for what they will be praying about, we have Roger Helle. He is involved in Pray Chattanooga and has been for 23 years here in town the executive director of Teen Challenge. He's been involved in Teen Challenge for 39 years altogether, and is a father of two. He and his wife Shirley live near Fort Oglethorpe. He is 64 years old and has had long work in Christianity and encouraging people who are tried and tempted by addictions and problems caused originally by Adam's fall some 4,000 years or so before the Great Flood that destroyed the old order. Roger, what is the Day of Prayer about in Chattanooga? First of all, where is it being held, and what is the protocol of the event here in Chattanooga?
Well, the protocol, David, is at 6 p.m. to 7:30 at Chattanooga Christian School. The local celebration event of the National Day of Prayer, which has been going on for many, many, many years, we will be meeting that night, the city coming together to pray for our nation. We'll be joining over 46,000 groups around the nation that will be praying together. Basically, we're asking God for a move of God in our nation to spare us from probably the judgment, the justice that we deserve, asking him for mercy.
Well, what is it that what we might be judged for, Roger?
Well, we have a long list of things. As a nation, we have turned away from our godly heritage. We have turned away from the moral standard, if you would. You mentioned abortion. That's just one of the many moral issues that are affecting our nation today. And, it goes on, your earlier program, racism, economics. I mean, there's so many issues. We're fallen people. And, we have turned away from the godly Judeo-Christian principles that made this country what it was. And so literally, as a nation, we're mocking God. And while we deserve his justice, we are praying and have been praying now for nearly a year and a half, Pray Chattanooga, asking God that we would see 2 Chronicles 7:14 fulfilled in our nation and right here in our community.
What does that passage say?
2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people, God was saying, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land.
Well, how are Christians supposed to humble themselves to accomplish this end? What does that mean?
Well, we have to recognize, even as Christians, first of all, we need to realize there's no such thing as a perfect person. There was one person who was perfect, not me. And so we all have areas of our life. We have sins. We have times when we have lack of compassion for the hurting. We have not, as a people, the church, not talking about a building, but the church corporately, we have not taken seriously that we have responsibility for the spiritual culture, atmosphere, if you would, in our community. And the Pray Chattanooga event grew out of that after the terror attack on July 16, 2015, where we as pastors and ministry leaders began coming together saying we need to praying for not only for our city, but for our nation.
So when Christians humble themselves, they're humbling themselves before God and before each other.
Right. We have, we've failed. The church corporately, we've failed to be that influence upon our nation. All these things that have happened, the breakdown of the family. Again, you alluded to abortion and how disproportionately that affects the Black family. And the breakdown in the family has brought about such an incredible hardening of our culture, if you would.
So when you say culture is hardened, that means it's not supple, it's not soft, it doesn't bend with circumstances. It's not when adverse circumstances come, let's say an economic crisis, the culture in Chattanooga and elsewhere is not able to deal with it because it's inflexible. It's become hardened.
Right.
It's not. It's become ossified.
Right. We have. We've. I guess a scriptural way of saying is we become hard-hearted. We don't have compassion on those people that are hurting. You think of the story of the Good Samaritan. He wasn't good because he was a Samaritan. He was good because he had compassion and went and helped somebody who needed help.
And he was again the reference there, of course, is the Good Samaritan is part of language culture and part of the English language tradition, but the idea in that parable from the Lord Jesus is that the Levite and the priest did not help the Israelite on the road between Jerusalem and Jericho, did not help him. They went on the other side of the road to avoid having to serve him. But a Samaritan whom Israelites disdained and even hated as sort of bastard children and would have nothing to do with, that man rescued and brought the injured man, again presumably an Israelite, one of the children of God, to an inn where he paid for his care. And he did that full of grace, full of compassion, whereas the high-minded and outwardly religious people in that parable did not. They would not be troubled to care for this injured man.
Well, I think that's the difference between religion. You had the priest, you had the Levite. You're talking about the religious people. But here was this guy. Now, when Jesus is telling the story and he says, and along come a Samaritan, they're probably thinking, great, he's already been beaten and robbed. Now they're probably going to, go through his
They'll take his sandals.
Right. Yeah, this was not the good guy until Jesus told the story.
Well, often the Lord does make strangers who are not among the chosen, not among the children of Israel in that time. He makes them the heroes, and there are many biblical characters. There's the centurion who is godly. There's Naaman, the general from the alien army who's cleared of his illness. Well, when Christians gather to pray, Roger, are they supposed to be specific, or are they supposed to be general? Are we supposed to pray for the nation, which maybe is easier to do than to pray for Chattanooga? Is it easier to pray for large problems that are national than large problems that are local?
Well, Pray Chattanooga, when it started, our first focus is our city right here. We are called to shepherd, if you would, the spiritual climate of this city. And I think when I came here 23 years ago, I worked for a faith-based program called Teen Challenge. We work with men and women who are bound with addictions. And so my job is to represent or to serve the church in this community. And so when I would get to know pastors and other nonprofit leaders, ministry leaders, my question to them was, what would happen if we all banded together to touch our city, to meet the needs of people that are hurting in our city? We could make a difference. And, for 23 years, everybody that I would talk to would agree that was what would happen if we did that. But yet we would not take the time out of our, quote, busy schedule to do that until we had the terror attack July 16, 2015.
And what did the terror attack teach Chattanoogans, Christian and non-Christian?
Well, I think for non-Christians and Christians alike, the fact that if a terror attack could happen in Chattanooga, it could happen anywhere. For as Christians, a number of us that I began talking to felt like this was a wake-up call. Now, this is my opinion, But I believe September 11th, 2001, God was trying to get the attention of our nation. It was a wake-up call to our nation, to the church, and the church, was very busy with people who were afraid of what's coming next for 6 months, maybe a year. But then after that, nothing happened, and so we kind of went back into we hit the snooze button, if you would. And so for me, that being a former Marine, when these Marines died, when that Navy sailor was killed, it was like, okay, God, what are you saying to us? This is our city. This is our community.
What is the connection between repentance and prayer? Because repentance, as Thomas Watson is telling me in a book I'm reading about that topic, repentance is easy when it's general. He says a wicked man acknowledges he is a sinner in general. He confesses sin by wholesale, and he says we really have to be particular. He says, Lord, I have sinned, but does not know that what the sin is. At least he does not remember, whereas a true convert acknowledges particular sins. So it seems to be in the whole art of prayer, there has to be something of repentance among God's people. What is the connection between repentance and things to be repented for and the National Day of Prayer?
Well, repentance, we had what is called a solemn assembly. I think many times as Christians or even non-Christians, we say, well, let's pray, or I'll pray, but do we really pray? But a solemn assembly was where God's people came together on the 1-year anniversary of the terror attack, and almost 900 people assembled, and we humbled ourselves, seeking God's face, asking for 2 Chronicles 7:14 that I quoted earlier to be fulfilled. But we start off with confessing our own sins, our own lack of compassion, our own lack of charity, our own lack of being like the Pharisee and the Levite who passed by our brother in need and left him on the side of the road. So we start with confessing our own personal sins, and then we go to the sins of our nation, our lack of compassion or apathy. The church has abdicated our responsibility, I believe. Now, I want to say this carefully, because I am part of the church. I can either be part of the solution or part of the problem. I prefer to be part of the solution, and so not just trying to criticize the church, but I want to be proactive instead of just reactive. We've given government the responsibility for taking care of our poor and taking care of our downtrodden, and that was always the responsibility of the church. And educating children, right,
and public safety. So is this you make reference to the abdication of the church? Roger Helle, this is David Tulis, and we're talking with Roger Helle, who's helping coordinate the Chattanooga prayer event on Thursday. It's at 6 p.m. at Chattanooga Christian School. He is part of Pray Chattanooga, a longtime overseer of Teen Challenge, 23 years here in Chattanooga. About repentance. So Christians should be repenting in the day of prayer of their personal sins, but is there some sense in which they should be repenting of things that bring about this abdication? We have, as you mentioned, we have government doing many things which formerly the family did, and that were formerly under the purview of the church. That would be hospitals, education, care of the poor, and where should prayer go? Should it ever go to large things, or should it always be personal, dealing with my private life, my dealings with my children and my wife? How big should prayers be?
Well, I think it starts with us personally, and then we expand out to local government, local institutions, and then state and national. Because we live in a fallen world, the system is broken. Whatever level you want to look at it, people, we hear a lot, corporate greed, you name it. But because we're in a fallen world, our systems have become, we've rejected a godly standard, and so we've settled for something less than that. So our courts, we can go right on up. Government, we have fallen people in government, and our government has grown where people are more concerned for their own future than for serving the people that they're supposed to serve.
Well, Roger Helle, state government in Tennessee has at least 7 things that I would say the Lord hates. One of them is the rejection of marriage. One would be the operation of public schools, which are sort of officially atheistic and pragmatic, and they're about managing populations. We have a travel lockdown where people who are not licensed by the state are arrested and charged with crimes for traveling on the public right of way. We have the state that has stolen probably about 7,000 children from their families. There are a few cases of abuse where state intervention is warranted, but we have a giant industry nourished by federal grants for that subsidize the stealing of children. So there are thousands of children stolen. We have state government is the brigand of the highway. My listener, if he travels, he's not in danger of any private robber, but he's in danger of the state. The state itself, through its civil asset forfeiture, stops and seizures of travelers and their goods. And also we have the Tennessee Lottery Commission, which skims the poor and induces them to participate in the vice of gambling. These and not the rejection of the state of the right to protect the unborn. It will not tolerate any official, police chief or sheriff, to defend the unborn. So we have the state of Tennessee in its official capacity wrecking godly order and making godly order impossible to find.
Well, we've settled for political correctness. And as long as we are concerned with what other people think instead of looking at what the Bible says, what God's standard is, again, going back to the founding of our nation on Judeo-Christian ethics, there was a standard. You violate the standard, you do away with the standard, you lower the bar, and we're reaping what we have sown over.
So we're reaping man's solutions to problems. So we have a drug problem. So the man-made solution is to have a highway robbery program where people who have assets, cash, and valuables have them stolen under a civil pretense.
Well, we have fallen people from all the way. We're all fallen in our nature, and even as Christians, we sometimes fail to be the light, the standard, the hope. God is the hope. Jesus Christ is the hope, and we're called to be that messenger to transmit that.
Are you an optimistic Christian, Roger Helle, or a pessimistic Christian?
I'm an optimistic Christian. I believe that I feel that we are getting to a place of desperation in our nation where that we could be on the verge of another great awakening. We've had one before the Revolutionary War, preparing us for that great struggle, one before the Civil War, out of that the abolitionist movement, and it's been a long time since we've had a move of God like that, and I believe that we're getting desperate enough.
But many Christians, though, Roger Helle, influenced by popular evangelical thinking, have a very bleak view, a very negative view, a pessimistic view of the future. They view Christianity and the church as sort of gathering the last wagon, putting the last chambering the last bullet that you've got, and getting your MREs near to you for your final meal. There's a lot of pessimism. There's not really, among many Christians, a sense that Christianity has answers to the problems that you're praying about.
Well, we have answers, but I think what's happened in the last few years has been political correctness. Kind of an illustration is like the church has had battered wife syndrome. Because of political correctness, we have failed to be that voice of that's holding what the standard is on marriage, on abortion, on immorality, on issues related that are culturally, quote, popular. The church, we've failed to be that
So
voice.
you would say, I guess, with Isaiah, that of the increase of Christ's government, there will be no end.
Yes.
So over time, godly government, as described in the scriptures, will increase among men and nations over time.
We will either experience a move of God, or I believe our government, our the way we are living as a nation right now is going to collapse on itself.
Would there be any benefits in that?
That's a good question. The question would be, will God give us what we deserve or the mercy we ask for?
Well, it seems to me that we've already been, it's not that judgment is ahead. Maybe we've been in it for a while.
Yep. We're due for something to change.
We're due for something to change. This is David Tulis. Roger Helle, thank you for joining me.
Good to be here, David. Thanks.
The National Day of Prayer event in Chattanooga is Thursday, 6 p.m. That's Thursday at 6 p.m. at Chattanooga Christian School. You may not be a believer, but go and see what it's about. And if you are a practicing Christian, it may be something worth attending and have something in mind to pray about. Have some things that we discuss here at the David Tulis Show as fodder for prayer with particular repentance and particular things to ask for. Particular, not wholesale. This is David Tulis, Nooga Radio, 1240 AM, 92.7 FM.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I've been a customer at SNS 14 years. It's way out of my way, but I'm well treated. I believe what I'm told. Price is reasonable. David Tulis here. Make an SNS appointment today. This week, get $50 off any 30,000-mile service or timing belt repair. And get a free combat knife as a gift. SNS Auto Repair specializes in Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. 6-time winner of Best of the Best Award in the Times Free Press. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring?